Japan believed its outer islands were unbreakable, fortified by samurai logic and bristling bunkers to grind down any invader. Admiral Akiyama declared Americans too predictable to ever breach them. But when the decisive moment came, the United States did not attack the fortress. They simply bypassed it, exposing a fatal flaw nobody in Tokyo anticipated. How did Japan's invincible strategy unravel so quickly? Centuries before American warships appeared in the Pacific, Japanese officers studied the code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. In 1944, this ancient creed shaped every order from Tokyo. The Imperial Army's Senjin-kun Field Code, printed in every officer's manual, commanded soldiers to fight to the end, never surrender and never retreat. To die at one's post was not just expected, but revered. These values became the backbone of Japan's defensive doctrine. After losing ground at Midway and Attu, planners drew a new line across the map, what they called the absolute defense perimeter, stretching through the Marshalls, Gilberts, and Carolines. Here, they would make a stand. Building fortresses meant to break any American assault through sheer endurance. The Z Plan, Japan's blueprint for the coming fight, drew inspiration from battles like Tarawa, where over 1,000 United States Marines died taking a single atoll. Every strong point was designed as a meat grinder, with garrisons ordered to hold at all costs. Admiral Manzo Akiyama, in charge of the Marshalls, gave voice to this mindset. The American mind is methodical, they lack imagination. Japanese command believed the enemy would always attack head-on right where resistance was strongest. Orders from Imperial headquarters insisted that every landing be met at the water's edge, that no ground be given. Deep defenses or fallback positions were dismissed as dishonorable. At Kwajalein, as on every outpost, officers drilled their men with the conviction that endurance and sacrifice would decide the fate of the empire. The result was a defensive system built not just of concrete and steel, but of unyielding faith in the samurai spirit. Orders from Tokyo triggered a construction effort that transformed the outer islands of the Marshalls, Gilberts, and Carolines into a chain of military fortresses. Japanese engineers poured thousands of tons of imported cement and steel into bunkers with walls up to 2 meters thick. Coastal batteries bristled with 140mm and 120mm naval guns, each able to reach targets over 10 miles away. These heavy guns, mounted on concrete slabs and protected by reinforced revetments, were positioned to cover every approach, their barrels fixed on likely landing beaches and lagoon entrances. Smaller artillery, including 80mm and 75mm pieces, filled gaps between the main batteries. Machine gun nests, often Type 96 and Type 99, models, dotted pillboxes and trenches, their fields of fire overlapping across the sand. On the beaches, engineers layered coconut log barricades, coral breastworks, and belts of barbed wire up to 50 meters deep. Type 93 anti-tank mines and anti-personnel traps were buried in the approaches, while the lagoon channels bristled with contact mines meant to catch landing craft and patrol boats. Bunker interiors followed a strict template. Ammunition magazines were sunk deep underground, blast doors sealed off command posts, and escape tunnels zigzagged toward secondary exits. On Jaluit, Mili, and Wache, these complexes anchored garrisons of 2,000 to 3,000 men, most trained for artillery or infantry defense, with technical staff running communications and radar. Each island's defenses were mapped and measured, every gun and bunker sighted according to the doctrine that the enemy would attack head-on and must be stopped at the water's edge. In the eyes of their builders, this outer ring was unbreakable, a wall of concrete, steel, and resolve, stretching across the Central Pacific. Inside a windowless room at Station Hypo in Pearl Harbor, cryptanalysts hunched over cipher sheets and teletype printouts, their pencils tracing patterns in the static of intercepted Japanese radio traffic. For months, these teams broke down the JN-25 naval code, piecing together fragments from a web of transmissions running across the Marshalls. Each decrypted message revealed more than just routine orders. It exposed the very structure of Japan's defenses. One set of intercepts, flagged in late December 1943, caught the attention of senior analysts. The messages detailed the composition of the Kwajalein garrison, about 5,000 personnel on the atoll, but only 1,200 were trained combat troops. The rest were clerks, cooks, engineers, and laborers. Cross-checks with aerial reconnaissance confirmed the airfield was barely operational, and supplies were running thin. No reinforcements were coming. Magic summaries echoed the same numbers. Intelligence bulletins circulated through Pacific Fleet headquarters, each one reinforcing the picture. Kwajalein, the administrative center tucked behind the outer fortress ring, was far weaker than the Japanese believed. The Japanese command, convinced that the Americans would strike the outer islands first, had left this vital node exposed. In the subdued glow of the operations room, analysts weighed the consequences. The data was clear. Kwajalein was a backdoor, unguarded except by a skeleton force. The cryptanalysts' quiet labor had cracked more than a code. It had exposed the flaw at the heart of the Japanese defense. For the first time, the Americans saw not just the wall, but the open gate beyond. At Pearl Harbor in early January 1944, Admiral Chester Nimitz gathered his senior staff around a battered conference table. Intelligence maps showed the Marshalls ringed with fortresses, Jaluit, Mili, and Woche, each bristling with guns and bunkers. Most planners argued for the expected approach: batter the outer islands first, wear down resistance, and secure the supply lines step by step. Nimitz had other ideas. He cut through the debate with a single order, and he said, "We are not going to Jaluit. We are not going to Mili. We are going straight to Kwajalein." This was a gamble that ran against every doctrine in the Pacific War so far. The intelligence from magic decrypts and aerial reconnaissance was clear. Kwajalein, the administrative hub, had only 1,200 combat troops among its 5,000 personnel. The rest were cooks, clerks, and laborers. The airfield was barely functional. No significant reinforcements or supplies were coming. Nimitz's plan was simple: ignore Japan's strongest defenses and strike where they were weakest. To make the Japanese believe the old playbook was still in use, the United States launched a deception campaign. For weeks, carrier groups and naval squadrons hammered Jaluit, Maili, and Wache with relentless bombardment. Runways vanished under craters. Shore batteries were pounded day and night. After action logs recorded thousands of shells and bombs dropped on these outposts. Japanese commanders, reading the smoke and thunder, reported up the chain that an invasion was imminent. Every radio intercept and situation report reinforced their conviction. The Americans would attack head-on, just as expected. Behind this curtain of noise and destruction, the real invasion fleet gathered out of sight. The Japanese watched the show, never realizing the main force was already preparing to slip past their invincible wall. At dawn on January 30th, 1944, the horizon inside Kwajalein Lagoon filled with steel. 7 U.S. battleships, 11 aircraft carriers, and hundreds of transports, packed with 40,000 troops, steamed straight past the outer ring of Japanese fortresses. The coastal guns, built to blast enemies approaching from the sea, now pointed uselessly away from the real threat. USS New Mexico and USS Mississippi opened fire with 14-inch shells, the first salvos landing squarely on the Japanese headquarters. Within minutes, bunkers shook and command posts collapsed under the barrage. Admiral Manzo Akiyama, caught in the chaos, faced the unthinkable. His doctrine, forged from centuries of samurai tradition, had shattered in a single morning. Later, Japanese staff officers would recall that the enemy did not honor the rules. The fortress, designed to endure, was being dismantled before it could even fight back. By February 3rd, the battle for Kwajalein was over. Nearly 8,500 Japanese lay dead, many of them clerks, cooks, and laborers, forced into last stands with rifles. Fewer than 400 Americans had been killed in the assault. The numbers told a story of complete collapse, not just of a garrison, but of an entire defensive philosophy. Across the bypassed islands, Jaluit, Maili, and Wache, over 40,000 Japanese soldiers waited in fortresses now cut off from the war. Supply ships never returned. Garrison diaries from these outposts record hunger, sickness, and the slow realization that help would never arrive. The fortresses, built to be shields, had become cages. Survivors endured months, sometimes years, of isolation, watching convoys pass beyond the reach of their guns. For those left behind, the doctrine of endurance offered only silence and starvation. Fortress thinking crumbles when doctrine outpaces reality. Today, military planners study Kwajalein as proof. Strength means nothing if it's inflexible. In a world of shifting threats and digital deception, the greatest vulnerability isn't a wall, it's an enemy who refuses to fight by your rules. What do you think?